Well, welcome back, friends. Yes, I was telling Sarah, I said, hold your thought about truth as being knowledgeable, because we're going to pick that up with realistic epistemology. Yes, yes, we can use some of these words. We can.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, but first, we got to define terms. So let's define indoctrination. And I have to be honest, when I was doing my with etymology on these words and concept, I had no idea. Well, I mean, I had some, but I didn't know the quagmire when it comes to indoctrination and education.
Right.
Oh my goodness. No wonder we are in such sad straits.
Yep.
I mean, it was something. So this is, I think it's a very germane conversation. So doctrine. So indoctrination. In is a Latin prefix, which could mean, because in can have other meanings, but one of them is not or against, plus doctrinari, what doctrina means to teach. So we put them, it's against teaching. So doctrine, late 14th century, the body of principles, dogmas in a religion or field of knowledge. From Old French, doctrine, 12th century, teaching doctrine, and directly from Latin doctrina, a teaching, body of teachings, learning from doctor or teacher. So the notion is whatever is taught or laid down as true by a master or instructor. Hence, any set, here comes the pivot, any set of principles held as true. So that's doctrine. So in doctrine would be the notion of principles held as false. So the pivot point then is this understanding of truth. And Pontius Pilate was quite correct when he said, what is truth? He was that, right? That rings down through the centuries. So Scott Adams. Do you know who Scott Adams is?
Dilbert.
Dilbert is right. Yes, Dilbert.
I feel like it's a trivia contest now.
It is.
$500 for Scott Adams. No, just kidding.
It is. And he is a thought leader in some realms. Sometimes he's on, the legacy media, is one way to call him. He recently came out.
The polite way to call them, right? Yes.
It is polite. I'm trying to be. He recently came out and he made a type of a mea culpa to the unvaxxed that he was seriously wrong. And this is not the top point of here, but that show was called The Unvaxxed One. And I have taken exception to that title in other places. This title, so shortly after that, so he admits that he was wrong in understanding his data. So here's what I'm talking about, that indoctrination and education and getting that straight or having some ways has real and profound consequences, because he's asking, teach me. That's his title. Teach me to recognize the good COVID data to avoid making the same mistake. See, he's asking, and I think that's true, how do those of us who saw the vaccine, I call it the jab, and I always will, how did we see the jab for what it was?
Right.
And that's this vision that we're going to spend, it's a lifetime. We don't always get it right, but goodness golly, it is really nice. I mean, he says it himself, and so did Elon Musk, that the unvaxxed have an ease of conscience In his mind, he thinks we have an ease of conscience that they will never have. Of course, I don't think that's true, because we all have loved ones who took it.
Right.
And there's no ease of mind in regards to them. So
Right.
that's one of my problems, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because his comment to me is one that I think is still somewhat a skewed question, because he presumes that we had some formulaic path that permitted us to, that if you simply follow this formulaic path, you will be able to understand the difference between education and indoctrination. And there is an element of, I guess it goes to Plato or Socrates moreover, but the question that he poses, or the statement that he makes, that the unexamined life isn't worth living. And so, there are too many people who are simply willing to want to reach the best, the easiest outcome with the least amount of work. And that is why indoctrination is always going to be, why people are always going to be susceptible to that. Because education is a climb, right? It's an effort that is going to take to be truly educated. There is no easy route. That's, you go back to Adam and Eve, right? She just wanted to know the difference between good and evil without any effort. Eat a fruit, you got it. So I think that that's one of the primary things that is going to be, a key difference is the effort that is required of you to enter into the subject.
That is exactly right. Because, and I'm sure if you go to my website, you start looking in my posts starting March, April, because I started to do the question I asked myself. So this is, Sarah's talking about, there is no formula. And the data that came to me from my own personal research, which proved to be persuasive, that what we were, Governor Abbott, his foundation for calling a pandemic in the state of Texas, was a lie. Right. And I could find it. It took difficulty, and I'm almost sure, but I haven't, because I was busy on this, I apologize, but you can look for it yourself, is I looked for the data in Bexar County of deaths.
Right.
On mortality.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, at that time, you could actually get flu deaths.
Right.
And I compared it with this rapid pandemic that led to so much of the troubles that Mr. Scott Adams is now very sorrowful about. But that persuaded me. But if I were to tell Scott Adams that back in April, he would have brushed me off.
Right. That's the problem.
Because it's not just one item. It's a training of the mind.
Yes, absolutely.
I hate to speak for other people. I've not sat down with him for a coffee, but I can guarantee, from my impression of him,
right,
Occam's razor,
yes,
is a fundamental tenet in how you approach things.
Yes, it
is.
And
I tell you, it's fine and good if you want to figure out what flavor of coffee you want.
Absolutely.
How to get to Akron, how to go here, how there. The simplest, right? The simplest answer is the right one. Right. But not when it comes to something tremendously serious like truth,
right,
or love,
right,
or sacrifice, or sin. Right. The simplest answer is not the correct one. It just isn't.
Yeah. It's a. I think that we have just become, as I said before in the last talk, that we are willing to accept counterfeits for happiness. And his ease of going to a grocery store without a mask overrided every other thought that he had. He thought that if he just took the vaccine, all of the other games that he knew were being played would be ended. And so it's very interesting because you see that in some instances, people have sort of an innate willingness to, or an innate need, maybe that's even a better word, an innate need to trust authority. And the problem is that in a fallen world, the only authority that one can trust is really divine revelation. Every other authority has to be received with at least a modest amount of skepticism. But he wanted his comfort. And so he was willing to believe what authority told him because he thought that it would buy him ease of life. I mean, for those of us who made different decisions during that time, it was an agonizing time for us.
Sure
You know,
was. It sure was.
I
It
mean,
sure was.
relationships, hard conversations, words said that are awful, awful hard to take back, or, different things like that. Relationships that were lost,
Right.
trusts broken. So, so that's why I'm saying there's no easy formulaic approach.
No, my friends, there aren't. And there are notes here if you want to continue on the COVID conversation. But the up top, I mean, okay, let's pick up. We'll have one more Scott Adams, and then we're going to go into, okay, let's do some hard work. All right. Till the next time, my friends. Fide Serraccio.